Hey there guys, Riyadh here from tabletopminis.com, and today we're just going to talk a little bit about how to paint fire on your salamanders. So I've just been doing this on my evolving salamander army here, and the kind of result that we're going for is a quite sort of muted, quite realistic looking flame. So the idea here is so that it doesn't look too cartoony, it looks quite subtle, but fits in nicely with the salamander's kind of fiery theme. So I've done it on a few models, pretty much all the vehicles and on the dreadnought, and I think I'm probably going to do it on some shoulder pads, maybe for the veteran squad. So to demonstrate this, I'm going to do it just on the salamander here, the assault tank. So sorry, not salamander, the Spartan assault tank. So we're just going to do some flames up here and the same on the other side. And the paints we're going to use for this is Corn Red, Jokera Orange, and Averland Sunset. So these are base paints from the Citadel range. You can really use any colors you like, as red, orange, yellow, and also black, just to darken down our dark red. So I mean, you could, if you don't have these paints, you can use others, but these work quite nicely because they're not too bright, they're quite muted anyway. So the first thing we're going to do, we're just going to make our little gradient here. So put some black on the palette. This is just a little wet palette. I would recommend using one of these if you don't already have one. They're very easy to make, and you can make them out of kitchen products. So we're just going to get a bit of each color. That's the Corn Red, and now the Jokera Orange. Try and put enough so that you can do all of the flames that you're going to do without having to come back and make your gradient again. And finally, the Averland Sunset. Then we're just going to mix them up a little bit to kind of get our in-between tones. And we're going to kind of build up the flames in stages. So we'll start with the darkest stage, and then we'll kind of work our way backwards. So you don't need to start too dark. Probably put a bit too much black on here. You only need a little bit just to get kind of dark crimson. So the idea is the flames don't stick out too in too much contrast against the black background. Otherwise, the flames they won't really look that real. If you need more paint, you can always just add it afterwards. So I think we need a bit more red in there. So you want something that's kind of close to black, but it doesn't have to be too deep a color. Yeah, I think I'm pretty happy with that. Now just get it down to consistency you want, so just add in a little bit of water. And one important thing when you're painting the flames is to work down the flame so that you don't have, when you finish on your brush stroke, there's not a pool of paint that at the tip of the flames, so you kind of trace down the way. So that's our palette ready. Now we'll start painting. So here we go. So we'll start with just with the darkest color here, the kind of crimsony color, and I'm using number 0 brush here, but you can kind of use anything. And this isn't going to stick out very much, so just tracing from top to bottom. You're trying to get a point at the top, and try and do it in a fairly random fashion, evenly across the area, so there's sort of flames everywhere, it's not just in the middle. And if you kind of need to repoint the flame, you can do that. And you can also break the flame out into branches, so you have, from each stem there's a couple of flames there. That looks quite nice. Don't worry about the bottom, because you're going to be painting over the bottom anyway, so this area here, so as you get to the brighter colors, so that's going to get painted in anyway. And kind of do it like tree trunks almost, where the flames get thicker as you get down near the bottom. And there we go. So that's the crimson part done. And then we'll go into the corn red. So you can kind of do this in various, as many stages as you like, but I'm just going to go straight to the corn red here. And now you want to go from just below the where the top of the other tips are, and you want to kind of trace the flames. And you don't have to follow only the original flames. You can make new ones, but try and make them lower down than the darker colors. And you're trying to avoid brush marks and pooling of paint here. So just try and sort of flatten out any kind of marks that you may have. And it's quite important to have a thin paint here, otherwise you will get brush strokes. So because you're doing it in so many layers as well, it's good to keep your paint quite thin and do multiple layers if you need. So I'm just going to block in the bottom here with red, but that will be painted over again with orange and yellow. So just to kind of get an idea of where the flames start. And anytime you kind of block in like that, try and feather in the edges so it doesn't look, you don't see a line across the flames, just kind of feathered in. This is quite an important technique for painting anything really, whether you're blending colors, you know, highlighting. It's really good to avoid sharp edges on your highlights and things like that, unless you're going for something specifically like high contrast for a metal or something like that. But even then, it's nice to soften the edges. So you can do that by either doing it in multiple paint stages, you know, kind of blending the paints in between each other, taking a color in between your highlight and your midtone, or you can do it by kind of feathering in the highlight, which means you kind of take a watered down highlight, and then you work your way across with the brush just in little strokes, avoiding pooling, just to kind of soften that edge. So that is the corn red done. Now we'll go for some of the mix of our corn red and Jocara orange. So we're just kind of building these flames up. And if you make any mistakes, it's no big deal. Everything's fixable at this stage, or well, at any stage during this. So, so yeah, you don't have to think about where your flames are going to be too much. You're just kind of loose brush strokes all over the place. Just trying to build that color into the kind of lighter shades that you're going to get to. And you know, if you feel like you need more brighter colors higher up, you can always go back over and do that again. So I think I've gone a little too far down the way here with the flame. So I want to bring the flames up a bit. So I'm just going to take some of that Jocara red and Jocara orange and corn red, and just going to bring the flames up a bit higher so that there's space below for the brighter colors. It's a very kind of trial and error here. Like I said, you know, you don't really need to plan it beforehand. Just keep going and changing things on the fly until you're happy with the result. And then we'll go on to our Jocara orange, and we'll come a little bit lower here. I hope the camera can see that okay. Yep. I'll start a little lower, just put in some Jocara orange streaks here. It's usually better to wait for the paint underneath to dry, but if it hasn't fully dried, it's not so much of a problem. You'll get a little bit of blending in between the colors, but that can also look quite nice. So here we go. And then we'll just take that orange and block in the bottom here.
And like I said, remember you're avoiding brush strokes and feathering as much as you can. It's okay if you make some little mistakes and go onto the edges, you can always come back and fix that later. So yeah, we'll just let that dry for a few seconds. Go over and do the other side. And now it's dry enough to move on to the next layer. Don't worry if there's too many, if there's some brush strokes showing, because they'll kind of be blended out when you're going over with the next layers. So that was our Jocara orange. Now we'll go for a mix of the Jocara orange and the Averland Sunset. And again, we're coming down a little bit lower, trying to avoid pools of paint. And you can kind of do this in a random fashion, like as before. And again, we'll just block in a little bit down at the bottom. So, and then just feather in these lines just to, so we avoid them brush strokes. So there we go. Now we'll just let that dry also. And now that's dry. Now we're going to go into the Mixoff. Well, actually, we'll go for the Averland Sunset straight away. Maybe with a little bit of Jokera in there. A little bit of, yeah, tiny little bit of Jokera orange. So the thing is, when you get down to the bottom of the flame, what I like to do is kind of center the fire in the middle. So it's almost like a semicircle in the middle, and then with the flames kind of coming out from it. So it looks like the fire has got kind of a core. It's not completely necessary though. So, but you do want the yellow and sort of the other colors, you want them all the way to the edge almost. So kind of, I like it a little bit higher in the middle, and although the color is at the edge, there's more of it in the middle. So So it's looking pretty nice already. Now I'm just going to let that dry for a little bit, and I'm going to go over the kind of, I'm going to put some more streaks in of the, I think I'll go for the, between the corn red and the Jokera orange, and a bit more of the Jokera orange just to kind of bring out the middle colors a little more. So you can keep doing this in stages basically until you're happy with it. But you know, it is quite a good, quick and easy way of making realistic looking flames, I think. Now I'm just going to put in a little bit more Jokera orange, just to kind of give us a bit more of a gradient between the corn red and the Averland Sunset. I think building this up in layers is really good as well, because you can you get a bit more kind of blending and a bit more natural looking flames by doing it in many layers and differing the colors. So take a little bit of a lighter color here and just blend in the bottom of them strokes that I just made with the Jokera orange. Again, trying to avoid the pooling of the paint and streaks. And that's a pretty good result, I think. I'm going to maybe do a little bit more work on it just to tidy up the flames, but you've got the principle there. and I think the result is quite good, especially for sort of tabletop level flames. You know, these aren't, this isn't a competition model or anything like that. This is just to get the army looking quite salamander-y. I've got a little more to do on this side on the flames here, so I'll get them done, and then that'll be it. Just a little more Averland sunset at the bottom here. And there we go, guys. So that's the flames finished. I think I'm pretty happy with that. You know, 5-minute job there, but I think it gave some quite realistic looking flames. And you can apply this technique to flames on anything really. The main things here is that you start with the darker color at the flame tips, and as you get closer to the source of the fire, you get brighter and brighter. You could go to, rather than go from a sort of dark red to a yellow, you could go from a kind of a red to a white if you wanted a brighter flame. You could experiment with different colors, so you can make it a blue flame, so you could start with blue at the top, or purple, and go from purple to blue to white, or green. So there's many different options here. But I hope that this little video helps you paint your flames or your salamanders or whatever else that you might be painting fire on. So thanks for watching, guys, and we'll see you next time. We can spend up to 5 points on heroes and a maximum of 20 points in the army size. So here we've got 17 points in total, and we have Lord Castellan with Griff as the HQ or the warlord. So he's 4 points. We've then got a unit of 3 retributors, and then behind them we've got 5 judicators, and we've got 2 units of 5 liberators with champion, and a unit of prosecutors. And that is the Stormcast Eternal Army.
Okay, and here we have 17 points of Skaven, led by a Skaven warlord over here. We have 20 clan rats with full command, and we have 20 storm vermin with full command. We also have a warp fire thrower here, a poisoned wind mortar team here, a packmaster, and 2 rat ogres. That's a Skaven army.
So here we've got the battlefield set up, and we're playing just a standard game of Age of Sigmar here. Just keep it simple while we show off the Azure comp. And we're going to now roll to see who starts deployment. So for the Skaven, have a 1. For the Stormcast, we have a 5. So Stormcast to start deploying. One change here that we're playing is one of the optional rules with Azure comp is you roll for initiative after deployment, and that initiative's kept for the whole game. So rather than roll at the start of every battle round to see who starts, it's a more logical order like the old Warhammer and like Warhammer 40,000. So it'll allow us to kind of plan our turns.